This video is sponsored by Rockstar. It's not really, but it's Rockstar. And that's what I'm drinking today. Good. Welcome, I am Zabraxi, and we're gonna do quite a different type of video today. I used to, well, different for now me. When I was, oh goodness, when I first ever made YouTube videos, a while ago, years and years ago, I've been really bad at consistency. But when I first started them, part of what I did was just kind of rant, just talk about thoughts. I used to have a podcast called Caught in a Rift for the MMO Rift, and it was a lot of fun. And sometimes it's really nice to just get your thoughts out there, just talk at a camera. That's what normal people do, right? Just talk at a camera and throw it on the internet for strangers to view. It's a very normal, not stupid, weird thing to do. Absolutely. So welcome and thank you for joining me. If you can't tell by the title of the video, we're here to talk about why Classic WoW success is actually bothering me. Now, before all the Classic WoW people get really ticked, let me just lay a couple things out there. One, I am one of those Classic WoW people. Two, I love the game right now. I'm having a blast, and I've not regretted spending a single moment in it, and I cannot wait to see what, what comes, but I can't wait to continue engaging, and I can't wait to do some of the new content that's coming out over the years, and especially even some of the stuff that's really freshly coming out. Three, I'm gonna be critical, not of Classic. If you're looking for that too, if you're looking for me just bashing on Classic, that's not the case. What I'm really kind of trying to accomplish here is I want to kind of discuss the genre of MMOs, and MMORPGs in particular, as a whole for a little bit here. So hopefully that is enough context. If you don't like ranty videos, probably less editing than I normally have, I apologize. I just like to talk about this stuff, and while I've been trying to stream a little more often, sometimes it's better to, I'll be honest, I'm a bit of a wimp, and sometimes I like to hide behind the fact that I could edit out if I say something really stupid. Other times on stream, I really like that as well, because it really keeps the fire under your butt, and really keeps you energetic and focused and everything, so hopefully you enjoy. By the way, forewarning, I fidget, so get over it. I will shift in this chair about 1,000 times, so get over it. All right, if you don't like it, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, man. So, all right, so let's talk about this. Classic WoW has been out for a month now. Came out, the 26th of August? So it's been out, as a recording of this video, it's been out for just over a month. It's been incredibly successful. Stupidly so. To a point where it's currently helped triple the current WoW subscriber number, which, now, so there's some context to that number. It's helped triple the current WoW subscriber number, but it's also not been as the revenue hasn't been quite as successful as the launch of BFA. There's some context to either number, one of which obviously BFA's at its midpoint. Subscriber numbers tend to be a little bit lower during that time. WoW has always consistently kept about a 2 million-ish subscriber count, which still would be 6 million players, which is kind of nuts to play a 15-year-old game. But two, also the revenue comment about BFA. Part of the context to that is that revenue obviously is a bit inflated for BFA because expansion sales. And Blizzard sells WoW expansions now at $50 a pop, so it's a lot of money to come in, whereas Classic, you just spend the $15 for the subscription every month, and that's it. So, just its own beast, to be honest, in a way. But now that's not something we're here to talk about today. So, Classic WoW came out. I was looking forward to it. To give you a brief history, to put some context to my own discussion here, I've been playing MMOs since I touched RuneScape when I was very, very young. I say very young, but I touched RuneScape really early 2000s, around when it first came out. I was playing Diablo 2. Someone told me to play RuneScape. I tried it, thought it sucked. I would try it again time later. I would think it would suck. I apologize. I'm not a RuneScape fan. I do not like the way of play it is. Not bad. I don't want to call it bad. It's just really not me. There are other MMOs I've played. Dark Age of Camelot, I've played, and then World of Warcraft and Guild Wars. I've played vanilla to BFA. Haven't rated hardcore or played hardcore during that entire time. But I've played the game basically, well, I played in 2005, so for 14 years, almost 15 coming up. I've played WoW a ton. So to play Classic, I was stoked. And by the way, I actually had already played Classic recently. Twice. I played during the Nostalrius days because WoD was... I'm going to be honest, I actually didn't hate it as much as other people did. WoD was actually just light on content. Really. Its rating was fine. If you were like me and you were a raider, outside the fact that the Warforged system had been introduced, tertiary stats had been introduced, and the gem socket system had been introduced, basically things that are random to gear that you can't control. Outside of that, rating was great. It was just, that was it. So I ended up playing Nostalrius, and I loved it. I loved Classic so much. When Nostalrius got shut down, we had a bit of like this down period. I had played Elysium, and I loved Elysium when it first launched. I played up, got myself into Molten Core. I loved it, played it 100%, and enjoyed every single moment of that time. So I had already done this twice. Here's Classic now. I'm still in love with the game. 100%. And that's what's kind of crazy to me. But there's a stupid problem to this. It's one of the best MMOs on the market right now, and it's a 15-year-old game. If I was going to boil this down to the crux of this recording, to the crux of this video you're watching, and you've made it this far, and you're like, yeah, you know what, I want to stop this guy from speaking, this is the big thing to me. One of the best games in this genre, a very young genre, by the way, in comparison to others. We're talking less than 20 years, really. Or maybe you could argue 20 years if you're counting 1999 as like launch of EverQuest, which is a pretty fair actually. So we'll say 20 years. One of the best games of that time, and most popular games right now, is a game that came out in 2004. That's actually despicable. That's actually disgusting. There's no reason that should happen. And if we were to even just say, let's take a look at the top 5 big ones, and we're looking from like what people had said, or like the numbers, the active revenue, and the player base, and what you see on streaming. Like you have like the big 5 right now: Classic, World of Warcraft BFA, Guild Wars 2, Final Fantasy 14, and probably old school RuneScape. When was the most recent game introduced of those? Hold on, let's take a quick peek. So, let me turn this on for a second. So I think Final Fantasy 14. I'm cheating here. Final Fantasy 14 actually came out in 2010. Now, when did A Realm Reborn come out? Because that's like the 2013. So, but let's be real. 2010. We'll be really lenient 2013. So 2013 is the most recent MMO that's been released. That's still in there. That's 6 years. Arguably 9. Guild Wars 2 being the game that came out in 2012, that would put it at 2012. So I'd say 7 years still. Dude, what is going on? What is the level of the MMO genre right now? And how has it been this bad that there hasn't been a single game in the last 5 years that is even in the top 5 of popularity? There's a lot to this. There's a lot to unpack. And there's a lot to really digest over this. You could argue that there's been a shift in what MMOs are and what people like about them. Let's compare some popular examples today. So you have like the MMO light genre, which would be, say, things like Path of Exile, which is massively popular. Totally fair. So now we've established that you have like the old school old school MMO, like EverQuest or World of Warcraft or Maybe Final Fantasy 14. It's kind of in like a weird like pseudo MMO mode. It's an MMO actually. Let me just take that back. I will take that back. You have those games here. You have MMO lights. The first of which I would actually argue is the original Guild Wars. The original Guild Wars is what Path of Exile is to this day. They're like almost identical in the way they function and operate. It's phenomenal. It is Guild Wars is the best Diablo MMO we've ever gotten. Like, so we could call it, along with Path of Exile and Guild Wars, the best Diablo MMOs we've ever gotten, until hopefully Lost Ark comes to the West and does really well, or Diablo 4 is somehow an MMO light and puts both Guild Wars 1 and Path of Exile in its place. That would be fantastic, and I would love that. I just don't believe it's gonna happen, because Blizzard's a bit funny lately. So, we have the MMO light genre progression, and then Borderlands. And I don't want to say looter shooter, because I'm gonna say looter shooter anyway, but I'm gonna say Borderlands. Because God, do looter shooters suck. They are so bad. Think about this. Whenever somebody says, I like Destiny, there's always a but right after it. Always. If someone says, yeah, The Division is good, but why? Why does an entire genre essentially have it's good, but? Looter shooters in general really need to step it up, and they've been in a good spot. Borderlands 3 seemingly do incredibly well. I'm not playing it right now, but I've played Borderlands 1 and 2, and I've enjoyed them both, and Borderlands 3 is really appealing to me right at the moment. But you've had Destiny 1 almost capitalized on what made this genre a thing. And the end of Destiny 1, I think, was in a really good spot to develop and grow and iterate. And unfortunately, it's not done that. And Destiny 2 has not even gotten back to that point. So I don't have confidence in Destiny 3. The Division was a massive flop, in pretty much in general, but by the end of it, it became a really good game. Again, similar to Destiny 1, over a several-year period. The Division 2 was talked about as if it was this great savior of the genre, like the example, the benchmark to live by, for about 2 weeks, and then no one's talked about it since. Basically at all. So even the MMO light, the MMO, and the looter shooter, which is an MMO light shooter form with RPG elements, MMOs have been in a really crappy spot. And classic WoW has been the most hyped. 15-year-old game. I've admitted this before, and I'll say it here. I've talked to my friends about this. But Blizzard has a couple options to go with Classic. The big three are you either go down the Burning Crusade route, but in order to do that, you have to, again, make two options. You either go down the Burning Crusade route and allow for people to stay in Classic, because if you don't, and you just move up to BC, we're about to get the same problem where people couldn't play Classic. One of the reasons why Classic was so demanded is you couldn't play it legitimately, legally, at all, whether you wanted to or not. So you go down the Burning Crusade route, you stay at Classic forever, or you create new content. Those are like the big three options. And the create new content has the highest reward by far, and it's the one that I'm personally the most excited for, but it's got the highest risk by far. If Blizzard does it wrong, and does it poorly, the game could be ruined. And that's a legacy I don't think anybody wants WoW to have. So back to this. Why is Classic's success so devastating to me? And I think it's this. It's this final realization that the MMO genre, probably my favorite genre next to action RPGs, but this genre sucks. To just put it bluntly, it sucks. It has gone nowhere in a decade, basically. The last game that really innovated and challenged the mold and did a lot to shake things up and ended up staying alive was Guild Wars 2 in 2012. Because Final Fantasy 14, for all the credit it deserves, and it's a fantastic game, is an iterated version of World of Warcraft. and it does it really well. Old school RuneScape is old. Black Desert Online has a good world PvP system. And you have... Man. To even try to think back to MMOs and to think about the ones that are really doing well and to think about the ones that are even existing, it's like almost devastating. It's like pretty crappy, to be completely honest, man. It's a bit devastating. We've gone nowhere. We've had World of Warcraft. We've had Rift. We've had Warhammer Online. We've had Aeon. We've had Wildstar. We've had Blade and Soul. We've had a lot of MMOs come out, and they've gone nowhere. The genre has basically gone nowhere outside Guild Wars 2, trying to challenge just the idea of, say, the Holy Trinity, which even it has kind of come back on. While, yeah, everybody can DPS, the roles of tanks and hard support characters still exist in that realm, just not to the same, say, the harsh degree as other games. So what do MMOs do? I don't know. And that's what frustrates me. That's what Classic's success, that's why it bothers me so much. Right now, there are 3 games that are in the MMO genre that I am looking forward to, and I'm hoping do really well. Those games being Pantheon, Rise of the Fallen, Lost Ark, and Ashes of Creation. But every single one of those, I'm excited. But with Pantheon, I'm excited, but it's a formula that's based off of a 1999 version of EverQuest. And while I love EverQuest, and while I love even old school games, and especially sandboxy styled games, and even theme parks like classic WoW, where I'm hoping that they can iterate upon those systems and upon that design to make something fantastic. But I'm worried that they're not going to be able to do as much as people are hoping, or that it's just not worth it, and that this formula works and it'll be fine, but that's it. Which is great to an extent, but also sad to an extent. Lost Ark, the massive butt, is Asia, the massive butts. Just Asian MMOs suck. Just to be honest, they suck. Final Fantasy XIV is like the exception to that rule, and it's because it's aimed almost at a Western audience. And I don't just want to say there's a taste difference between, say, Western audiences and Eastern audiences. There is a taste difference. But what Asia likes is pay to win. Automated gameplay. We have games like Astelia that just came out where you literally open up your quest log, you click on the quest, and your character just up and walks to the quest location. Why have it? What is the point? Why add a 25 to 30 hour time killer if there's no real content there? Why don't you just have a level-less game or like a classless game, or make this world exist and have levels or power not be the progression? Power can be maybe, but levels aren't the progression. Stats can be attained other ways. I don't know. Think of literally anything besides having these 25 to 30 hour fillers. Black Desert Online, the game plays itself. Unless you're PvPing, basically. You can PvE, yeah, and grind, but let's all be real. There's a massive level of automation to that game, and that's not gameplay. That you literally aren't playing. It's in the name, gameplay. And that's so much of what Asian MMO market is. So that's Lost Ark. Pay to win. And automation. I'm not saying that's what the game is, but that's like the big caveat to why I can't be that excited about it too much. And then Ashes of Creation. Ashes of Creation has its own problems. It's a Kickstarter game. Granted, the studio has blown up, but it's a Kickstarter game, and the creative director while Steven Sharif is a fantastic guy, and I love hearing him talk about games, this is his first game launch. I can't help but be a little hesitant to that. The game's had their problems, or the development's had its problems. I'm not going to hold that over them. But the game... Now, the game, I gotta give credit, seems like a sequel, basically, a spiritual successor to Arcade, which is a game I purposely have left out so far. We'll get to that in a second. But even with Ashes of Creation, the combat isn't innovative. What Ashes of Creation feels like to me is finally an iteration of all of the genre's feats and good aspects, trying to get put into one package. But that sounds like a bit of a pipe dream, doesn't it? And that's my worry. If they can execute it, trust me, I'm on board and I'm in. I will spend as much time as I can in that game. But you can't help but be a little cynical when you say this game is everything good about MMOs. Yeah, that's what every MMO is trying to do. The game that we had in the past that I think really, truly, honest to God, deserved a shot was Arcade. And Arcade did really well in Korea, and its patch 1.2 ruined the game. And it came out in the West, and within a month, I think it's like a month and a week, that patch got pushed, and it ruined the game. Everything that was good about Arcade got unraveled. It got ripped apart, and it became pay to win. And for people who say that pay to win doesn't have too much of a problem, or that cash shops aren't that big of a deal, this is what happens when you lock content, or you allow content, through a paywall. It becomes a mess. There was a famous comment about Arcade during its heyday that if you wanted to become a good Arcade PvP player, you had to fork over about $1,000 out of the gate. That was the entrance fee to get everything you needed to PvP at a remotely competitive level. And yet that game was not that for a little while. And it was considered by many the greatest MMO since WoW. That game even is getting another re-release. It's like third re-release, but this time without any of the pay-to-win, without any of that content at all, any of the shop. It has the shop, but like it doesn't have all of the gameplay interactivity between the shop and the game itself. All of the shop is cosmetic stuff, and that's where it ends. But even that game suffered and died very fast after that. Very, very fast. I am excited, and I've been loving every moment of Classic WoW. There's just this part of me that's been torn and saddened by watching a genre with basically infinite potential go nowhere and struggle and seemingly never try. It feels lazy. It feels like what looter shooters and battle royales have become. Let's be real. Name me the last major innovation to the looter shooter genre. Name me the last iteration or real innovation of battle royales. The building mechanic in Fortnite. That's about it. I will say with battle royales, there is one game that actually does look pretty good, called Spellbreak. I'll at least give them credit. The style of combat, the way that game approaches combat, with like a pure magic system and manipulation system of that, could be cool. But the core gameplay is identical to Battle Royale. So if you don't like that core, you're out. Someone has to do something. We live in a world right now where the industry is so caught up in live service, and yet the MMO market isn't booming. The MMO market was the original live service, and everyone wanted an MMO for a while. But because everyone tried to be WoW, and WoW was just the best, no one succeeded that well. And we're seeing that with Battle Royales. Everyone wants to make a Battle Royale right now. But they're trying to beat Fortnite at Fortnite. You never will. You never will. Yokai Watch doesn't try to be Pokemon. It's a monster raising game, but doesn't try to be Pokemon because it'll lose. Because Pokemon is Pokemon. The one thing that excites me about Classic WoW's success, to twist this whole video on its head, is that there have been so many people who have claimed and stated that in the gaming industry, Classic WoW's success was being heavily observed. Was being really watched like a hawk. And it did it. At least so far as of this recording, its first month has been an insane success. Booming to the top of Twitch and setting records across Twitch viewership, across Reddit subscriptions, or subreddit subscriptions, across revenue in a day, across queue times. I mean, it's hit every possible record. To claim WoW is bad is stupid. To claim WoW is not successful is stupid. To claim that WoW or that Classic is the pinnacle of the genre is stupid. We have a long way to go. And Classic WoW, as good as it is, has a whole plethora of problems. And I'm hoping, really hoping, that the MMO genre can just pick itself up. Do something great, man. Wouldn't that be awesome? Could you imagine if Diablo 4 gets announced as an MMO Lite? It wouldn't be a true MMO, but even to have an MMO Lite battle, maybe that can boom into something big. I'd be down for that. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you made it all the way this far, I suppose I should probably tell you to like, subscribe, say hello, kiss me, do all those things at the start of the video, but I didn't, so I love you. Thank you for making it this far again, and enjoy the rest of your day. And if you're on Classic, have a lot of fun and kill anybody of the opposite faction that you can. If you're on a PvP server or PvE server, flag yourself and just kill someone. That'd be fun. Make them do that ridiculous corpse walk that Classic is so famous for. I'll see you guys next time.